Hey, guys, what is going on? It's the one and only Lee Sanders here of the RCWR Show coming at you with some breaking news to kick off your Thursday, or maybe to wrap up your Thursday as we're getting ready to head into the weekend. This breaking news is coming at you all for Thursday, January 25th, 2018. Now, I made sure that I made myself available to watch the press conference in all of its entirety. Of course, I am talking about Vince McMahon and his new company, Alpha Entertainment. I'm sure you all have probably been keeping tabs on what's been going on with this company in the headlines, as Vince McMahon had sold X amount of his shares in WWE to basically fund this company so that he could pursue very interesting, unique business opportunities. And the announcement that we had heard at the top of the hour at 3 p.m. Eastern, all throughout, however they were streaming it, Facebook, Twitter. In this case, I watched it on Twitter. The big announcement, the XFL. Everybody remembers the XFL. Those of us that were young enough to remember it, it is making its return, but a lot later rather than sooner. Just kind of marinate on that for a little bit. So, the way it's looking right now, the XFL will be making its return in 2020, full effect 2020. Now, great video package that they had in introducing the return of the XFL, basically talking about bigger, badder, faster, smarter. This great little video package that they had did. I must say I enjoyed it. It kind of made me ask myself a few questions, and I was hoping that of the gazillion people that were on the conference call with Vince McMahon asking their questions, that the people would ask the question, but none of the journalists had asked the questions that I thought were kind of like, like the video package kind of leads you into this direction. So is that what the XFL is like officially going to be about? And like nobody jumped out there. I'll just tease you guys with that for now, and I'll let you all know in just a couple of minutes what it was that I had saw that none of the people that went live with Vince McMahon had asked, as there was like a pretty obvious, like in your face moment of the video package presentation setting up the return of the XFL that warranted, hey, Vince, XYZ, what it is. Can you give us the official word? So we all know how the XFL had came about the last go round, and we can all be in agreement. It actually did start off on a really good note, but like all of a sudden it just started to get extremely silly. We started to experience these ridiculous story arcs. We started to see wrestlers get involved, and it was just all the way around. It was just okay. What else is on? Because this is just, and it fizzled out real quick after one season. We all could be in agreement of that. How is it going to do this go round? I'll sound off on that in a couple of seconds. I do want to take this time out to thank those of you that's checking this out right now, be it live or you're checking it out on the downloads/demand. Do me a huge favor. Make sure you give me that thumbs up. Normally, I have like some cool graphics on the screen reminding you, but something's going on with the app extension for it. Hopefully, I can have that resolved in a couple of days, because I don't like how naked it looks right now. You longtime listeners know exactly what I'm talking about. Also, I have a poll right now. Take your pick. If you have access to YouTube, which I'm assuming you do if you're checking this out, head over to the main page here of the RCWR show. Click on the communities tab and cast your vote. Let me know if you think that this go round the XFL is going to be a success. We've got early results that's coming in right now, and I'll tell you about those before we wrap it up. So the bullet points, because not everybody was able to check this out. The bullet points of this is that the XFL, according to Vince McMahon, it's going to serve as its own entity. Just how he started up this company, Alpha Entertainment, it is a separate entity away from the WWE. It has no association other than Vince McMahon being the chairman of the WWE. That's it. Other than that, like Alpha Entertainment has no ties whatsoever to the WWE. It is just off on its own unique island. It is off on its own unique universe. Think Christopher Nolan and his Batman trilogy and how it just did not fit. Even though we fantasized about it, it just really did not fit with the current DC universe and some of what you're seeing on TV right now from DC Comics, right? As far as Black Lightning, Flash, etc. Alpha Entertainment, its own entity. XFL is going to serve as its own entity under Alpha Entertainment. Now, Vince McMahon did say that they are continuing to do their research as far as figuring out what cities are possibly going to basically give birth to the XFL teams. He did say that it all just depends on feedback. If there were some teams that fans had really liked, or there were names of teams that fans and everybody else thought was pretty catchy, they would entertain the idea of bringing it back. But he reiterated time and time again that the XFL this go round, although it is a reboot, everything is going to be brand spanking new. Another thing that was tackled now, so for those of you that might be curious, are there any cities that were named as far as who's going to be having an XFL team? Still in the early stages. Vince McMahon, I got to tell you, the questions that he was being asked, like there really wasn't a lot you could really sink your teeth into. He pretty much just kept saying bigger, better, faster, smarter. And we'll get into the little bit that he kind of teased, such as, and this is like one of my biggest concerns, and I have said this time and time again on the show, which is how can Vince McMahon, in good faith, knowing what's going on with concussions and all in the NFL, how can he, in good conscience, go into relaunching the XFL once again? And like, is he prepared for potentially enduring lawsuits? Sadly, that was a question that honestly was not addressed in the conference call. I really wish somebody would have been able to ask that question. I don't know, maybe for future conferences, maybe I need to like be getting in on this. But one reporter did kind of bring up the whole concussion CTE. The only thing Vince McMahon said was, hey, we're going to do everything we can to make the sport be smarter. We're going to do our best to make sure that it's safe and that it's friendly. But at the end of the day, it is football. That was one thing that he stressed over and over and over again. There would be no social issues. There would be no politics, just straight up good football. So that kind of alludes to what you may have been seeing if you're a fan of the NFL or were a fan of the NFL, with all the political protesting that's going on. Take your pick, whether it's taking a knee. Does everybody understand why the knee is being taken? You kind of have to trace it all back to one Colin Kaepernick and understand the meaning behind why he began to take a knee in the first place. Those that are taking a knee during the national anthem, Vince McMahon did tackle stuff like that in his own words, basically saying that there's a lot of oversaturation when you look at what's going on in the NFL, and that the timing of the XFL making its return is actually, it's good timing right now, considering that the fans don't want to be dealing with all of this stuff. They just want good, straight up, in your face football, as simplistic as humanly possible. Another thing that was tackled, we're talking about oversaturation and all that. For those of you that might be a little bit curious, the question was brought up. Okay, so are you saying that in the XFL, like there's not going to be any teams whatsoever that's going to be able to take a stance? They're going to be able to make a political statement, or they're going to be able to maybe bring attention to some type of a worthy cause? Like, are you saying that they could face penalties, suspensions, fines. And Vince McMahon pretty much said there's going to be a rule book that's going to be given out to all players, the teams, management, personnel, and that basically, they're going to have to do everything they can in their power to abide by those rules. And that if they don't abide by those rules, then pretty much it's like touch and go. They're just going to deal with it as it comes along. But that's really something he kind of tried to dance around, to say the least. Now, another thing that was covered was that the XFL is one that is basically set up in such a way that it's going to be giving football back to the fans. And that basically Vince McMahon, he wants for the XFL to listen to fans, medical experts, those in media, players, current, former, but definitely relying heavily on the fans for input. It is all about reimagining football. Some of the things that he kind of alluded to that makes you go, okay, you know what? This actually sounds pretty good, but how's it going to be executed? I'm a little bit more curious in that was, hey, how about you have a football game with fewer commercials? Now, you know what? That strikes a chord with me. And I know there's a lot of you guys that check out the NFL. And I think we all could be in agreement that the commercials is just every time you turn around, you could come back from a commercial break and the ball gets kicked to the other team. And it's like, okay, so we'll be back with the Redskins opening drive after this break. And it's like, well, wait a minute. They just received the ball and they just returned it. They're down there at it's a touchback. So what the hell you mean you're you just came back from a commercial break? What the hell? Like, stay with it already. And like, now it's just kind of gotten to that point where we're seeing on whether it's CBS, Fox, NBC, now we're kind of seeing a lot of times that, they're still taking a good bulk of commercials, but they are kind of doing like a 30-second window and you're getting a split screen. You're seeing what's happening with the game. And then you're also seeing what's going on with the commercials or whatever. So as far as the whole fewer commercials, I agree with that. But see, as good as that sounds, like I would imagine, and I wish that this was a question that was asked to Vince McMahon during the conference call, which is, okay, Mr. McMahon, I would have said to Vince straight up, like, Mr. McMahon, you said that, with the XFL, it's going to be a case where there's going to be fewer commercials. Okay, so is this going to be a situation where you're not going to be as advertiser friendly as the NFL? Is the XFL going to just mainly be relying on, being financially good as far as advertisement spots go and all that through the WWE? Or are you going to be looking at the hookups from, streaming services to help you out in generating some type of ad revenue for streaming the games? How exactly are you going to make up in ad revenue if you plan on having the XFL air the games in such a way that there's not going to be any type of commercials or little to none commercials at all? Another thing that was stressed, somebody did bring up if the XFL is going to be streaming on the WWE network. Now, I'm going to kind of rely a little bit more heavily on you guys, but I'm kind of like 60% certain that Vince McMahon, he didn't exactly shoot it down, but he really wants for this, and he did stress it a few times, that the XFL is a separate entity, that there will be plenty of platform opportunities to watch the XFL, whether you're watching it on your phone or you're watching it on your tablet, you're watching it on desktop, maybe you're watching it through Facebook, maybe you're watching it through Periscope or whatever, that there would be plenty of opportunities to be able to watch the game. I would imagine that if Vince McMahon is really serious about the XFL being its own entity and that this is under his company, Alpha Entertainment, and that it is separate from the WWE, then I would suspect that no, you're not going to be able to watch XFL games on the WWE network. I would strongly suspect that. Now, understand something, folks. And for those of you that did not watch the press conference, Vince McMahon really drawing the line, really stressing that this is a separate entity. So I say that and I reiterate that again because we have to take what Vince is telling us at face value. So, like, I see one person in the comment section saying Vince McMahon doesn't ever listen to the WWE fans now, then how do we expect to believe him with the XFL? Well, quite simply put, let's be honest, we know how much of a disaster towards the end of the XFL during his first rodeo. Like, honestly, back then, you couldn't tell Vince McMahon anything. If Vince McMahon wanted to start up his own football company and he wanted to have hot babes running around and there should be cameras in the locker room watching these cheerleaders get all dressed up and everything, well, that's what he was going to do. You couldn't tell him differently. I believe in the old saying that a young man was once a young fool and that now he is an old wise man. I would like to believe that mindset. The answer to that, and I think that's a very good, valid question, we don't know. We just have to assume that Vince McMahon has truly learned from his mistakes in the past and that he really is trying to get off on the right foot this go round with the XFL. And if he's really serious about getting feedback, again, we have to separate this. We can feel how we want to feel about, oh, well, he never appreciated fans' input with regards to the WWE product. Like, are we really sure he's going to give a damn about our input for the XFL? Like, we got to take this at face value that he really is trying to get feedback from any and everybody, but especially the fans. And if it's a situation where Vince McMahon is ultimately just saying this just to sound good, just to basically create good PR, then that'll be a different discussion that we have when the time is right. But for now, we got to take it at what it is at face value. So we already told you guys about fewer commercials. Like I said, one of the questions I had, and I think that's a really great question. I wish somebody would have asked that. They did not. One of the other things that was mentioned, which I totally agree with, simpler rules. How many times have we seen a football game where we're going, my God, that's a freaking catch. That is without a doubt a catch. And the ref goes, nope, it's not a catch. Well, what do you mean it's not a catch? The guy caught it with two balls and then, I'm sorry, the guy caught it with two hands. He caught the ball with two hands. What do you mean it's not a catch? Well, look at the upper portion of the body. Was he successfully able to maintain control throughout the grab, leading to him hitting the ground? Like, we've seen this crap every single Sunday or Monday for the past couple of years now, where we're like, man, that was a bogus call. Like, that should have been a catch. That should have been good. So as far as more simple rules go, simpler rules, I'm actually down with that. I wish I could have heard a little bit more elaboration on simple rules. It's so interesting too, because you hear reports from those that are very close to Vince McMahon or were close to Vince McMahon. He is a fan of football, but he really doesn't get a chance to watch it like that. There is that point in his personal life where he unwinds. It's well documented from those that work close with him that he never watches back the WWE product after it's aired. That way he could kind of make bullet points on what worked, what didn't work. It's just pretty much like once he's done, he's decompressing in his own way. And I mean, that's understandable. But for someone that really is not watching football like that, I can't help but really wonder just how intuitive, how well informed Vince McMahon has been of the current NFL product all these years. If all he's been doing is focusing on the WWE product 24/7. So brings me to another point question, and I thought it was a really excellent question. How hands-on is Vince McMahon going to be? Like, is he going to be at the forefront of everything? He pretty much said, this is the only time you're going to be seeing me. I'm like pretty much making the announcement that the XFL is returning, but that's it. You know, I may kind of work a little bit behind the scenes, but like there's going to be people well put in place that are far more advanced, have the experience, that know XYZ. You know, this is the only time you're going to be seeing me. So I thought that was interesting. So he's just pretty much being the face of, hey, we're coming back. It's going to be a shorter. Now, look, I think we all could be in agreement. If honestly we could have it our way, we would love for the NFL to be all year round. But hey, the guys need time to rest. NFL is away for like about 7 months. Far as Vince McMahon is concerned, wouldn't it be awesome if there were shorter games, but it being more fast paced as well? He's talking about 8 teams. All right. And according to my notes here, 8 teams, 40-man roster, basically a 10-game regular season. There'll be a championship round. And then at the very end, it's pretty much going to come down to 2 teams for a championship game. He is looking for quality players. Let's make sure we stress that. In the XFL, there is going to be quality players. Just want to stress this because I don't really think it's being highlighted enough all throughout the wrestling sites. So you're welcome for any of this information that I'm going to in finer detail for those of you that did not catch the initial stream. But Vince McMahon basically said, look, if you had got a DUI, you know, you had a parking ticket or whatever, you're probably not going to be able to play for the XFL. He cares a great deal about character in his players that's going to be making up this league. And I love how the question was asked, hey, so guys like Tim Tebow, Colin Kaepernick, are they going to be welcomed into the XFL? Now, with regards to Tim Tebow, Vince McMahon did say, yeah, you know, Tim Tebow, he'd possibly be welcomed. And I just thought that was kind of interesting. And to me, that kind of show, to me, it demonstrated, I don't know how many of y'all are thinking this way, but for him to basically say Tim Tebow would be welcome to the XFL, that to me shows how out of touch Vince McMahon is, because anybody that has followed the career of one Tim Tebow, you know, or even Johnny Manziel, you're kind of like, yeah, Vince, you may just kind of want to stay clear of these guys, like, period. I wish somebody would have went for the juggler even more and been like, hey, what about a guy like Colin Kaepernick, considering how much of a polarizing figure he's been in the headlines? You know, would the XFL have its doors open to one Colin Kaepernick if you were able to meet his asking price? I wish that question would have been asked, but you know, whoever asked the question, and by the way, for you guys that are able to do conference calls with the chairman of Anthem Entertainment, Alpha Entertainment and the WWE, like, have some really good follow-up questions. All the questions that I was hearing, half of them were actually pretty good, but like there was plenty of opportunities to be able to go in with a follow-up question to really reiterate and re-strengthen. Like, there was probably only one person I heard of. It was a female, and I wish I would have jotted down her name. She sounded rather young, but it basically had to do with like, okay, so what are like the specifics as far as rules, things of that nature? I mean, she followed up on that, and I thought that was good. I mean, and she did it in a way where it wasn't like, ha, I got you, you don't know Jack. but it was definitely professional enough in a way where like she successfully did her probing, and you could tell that like Vince did not like have it all written down as far as, okay, if you get asked this question, you go to chapter 1A. If somebody comes at you with this, then you go to 1B, 1C, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, basically saying XFL quality players. The question was asked, did the ESPN 30 for 30 have any type of a heavy influence on bringing back the XFL? And Vince praised the hell out of the team at ESPN that had put that 30 for 30 together, but that no, that's not what did it. That honestly, he's been thinking about bringing back the XFL for many years now. I wish a follow-up question would have been asked, and that follow-up question would have been, well, exactly, do you know like what year? When did you kind of start thinking, you know what? I want to take another crack at this. That really would have been a great question to ask. Also, for the XFL, he cares a great deal about making sure that the quality of play is rather high. Let's see. Now, interesting note, there is not going to be any WWE crossovers whatsoever. I repeat, there is not going to be any WWE crossovers to the XFL whatsoever. XFL is going to be its own entity. It's going to be its own universe. So if that's the case, then I definitely would like not suspect the XFL to be on the WWE network if it's going to be off doing its own thing like that. So as far as you all thinking, maybe Jerry Lawler, Jim Ross, maybe being commentators for the XFL, no. If it means that Vince McMahon is going to be reaching out to amateur broadcasters or professional top-notch broadcasters to call the XFL games, then so be it. That's exactly what's going to happen. Another question that I felt should have been asked, again, I wish I would have been in on the conference call here. Okay, so like you're saying that there's going to be a total of 8 teams with a 40-man roster. So these 8 teams that play, will we be able to watch all of these teams play? Like how many of them are going to play at 1 o'clock? How many of them are going to play at 4 o'clock? How many of them are going to play at 8 o'clock? And is there already discussion underway and maybe borrowing concept from the NFL network where, with League Pass or something like that, you can watch all the games you want? Or is this going to be a situation where one week one team will play and the next week, like, is it going to go down like that or what? So again, these are questions that really, you got the man right there. And I would suspect Sports Illustrated and a couple of other media outlets, maybe they might be able to follow up with Vince, sit down with the guy, and maybe we can get answers to these questions in the coming days. See, what else can we talk about? I got a couple of more notes here with regards to XFL. Let's see. Oh, this was the most interesting one as well. According to my notes here, is that he wants to cut down on time. He wants to cut down. Think about it. You're watching an NFL game. We've been there. There have been a decent amount of NFL games within the past 5 years, I would say, that has been the absolute drizzles. Can we agree with that? And you're going, my God, this is a damn blowout. Like, and now it's kind of gotten to that point where if you notice kind of quietly, you'll see NBC, you'll see, it's like when you're trying to think about the initials, you're like, when you see NBC, you see CBS and Fox. Now, if you have a game that is just like a straight up blowout, now you got maybe Kurt Menefee or you've got James Brown going, hey, we want to go on ahead and show you guys a more competitive game. So you guys are now going to be seeing blah 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 game until the 4 o'clock game comes on for your respected area. You all should be seeing either this team playing at 4 or blah 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 team playing at 4 o'clock. So I think that's kind of cool that, hey, as far as our football games go in the XFL, we don't want to give you guys a 3 hour, 3.5 hour football game. You know, we kind of want to give you a short game as much as humanly possible. Well, I mean, that sounds good, but like, so what? What are you thinking? 2 hours, especially if you're not gonna have there be a halftime, which is what Vince McMahon is proposing. Like, no halftime for the XFL. I don't know about you guys, but like the best part about halftime in the NFL is three things. One, the teams get to take a bit of a breather, and they get to kind of go to the drawing board. They get to kind of think about any adjustments that they need to make for the second half. Secondly, what's cool about halftime is that we all get to take a bathroom break. We get to reload on beer, pizza, wings, whatever. Hurry up, take the trash out so we can enjoy the rest of the games that's coming on, right? And then third, maybe, just maybe, we want to check out what's going on with some of the other games that's playing about in the league. So we get to tune in to James Brown and crew or Kurt Menefee and crew and find out what else is happening around the league. So, I mean, as interesting of a concept as that is, I'm not really sure if that would work on all cylinders. But then again, hey, I've been proven wrong before, so we'll just wait and see. One theme that kept coming up as far as a question, cities. What cities is Vince McMahon looking at? What cities is Vince McMahon considering? All he would say is all cities are being considered. They don't have any announcements right now, but that everything will be coming about in the near future. He did give a nice chuckle and admitted, because there was one person that asked him if Pittsburgh was being looked at. Vince McMahon would not confirm or deny. However, he would say that Pittsburgh is very close to his heart. He loves Pittsburgh, but nothing. If as far as news of which cities are going to be getting teams, that will be coming about in the very near future. Also, that brings me to one other point. Where are they going to be playing? Good question that was asked. They are looking to have the XFL be played wherever there are football stadiums. And if they aren't able to access football stadiums, then they want for the teams to play in baseball fields. And I think that's very interesting, considering that the announcement just came about the other day that with next year's Royal Rumble is going to be taking place at a baseball stadium, and it, I believe, can hold up to about 40,000 people. Excuse me. So, I mean, I think that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty interesting. So, I mean, they're considering all options, but I mean, I think that's a no-brainer that they would be considering playing at a stadium that hosts a football team. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, especially if they're trying to do it in such a way where, okay, the NFL is done, and now we could just go on ahead, come up in there. And yeah, I think that would be good. Or a baseball stadium. I mean, that would be good as well. As far as when they're looking to do this, pretty much spring. It would, so pretty much right after the NFL wraps up, like spring would pretty much be the timetable that the XFL would launch. There was consideration of naming the XFL something else, but they kept coming back to the XFL, but a different name was considered. But ultimately, they went with XFL, and honestly, it just sounds pretty cool. It sounds pretty badass. So they just wanted to go on ahead and go with that. And other than that, one very important question, and I thought this was another great question. Like I said, there were decent questions that came in, but you had half the questions that were, okay, that's a good question. but then the other half was like, that was weak. And then you had so many opportunities where you could have done follow-ups to like really like probe, but like honestly, it just felt more like show rather than tell. You feel where I'm coming from? Big obvious thing I noticed during the graphics that I'm surprised none of the people that were there and that were watching this conference followed up on with Vince McMahon. And I'll rely on you guys to comment and let me know. But remember during the graphic, you had the guy that was rapping and he said something along the lines of, "You bet." So you're kind of going, so wait a minute, wait a minute. Are you telling me that like fans of the XFL are going to be able to place bets on the games? Because like we know one of the things that's really popular is betting on NFL teams and all that. I mean, anybody that watches First Things First on FS1 knows how much of a huge gambling fan Nick Wright is, and he's lost a good amount of money as a result. Or how about the guy that used to do the radio show with Boomer Esiason? I mean, that guy, whew, I don't know what became of him, but like we ain't heard from that dude since. So like, oh, okay, so like we're gonna be able to place bets on what games we think are going to be on point. Like we're going to be able to place bets on winners for these XFL games. Are you guys going to be hooking up with DraftKings? Like I wish those type of questions would have been followed up on with Vince McMahon, because when you see the video package, you're like, oh, so we're going to be able to bet on games. Also looked like there was some type of fantasy booking as well. And we know that that's something that the WWE had done in the past. With remember they had like some type of an online league thing some years back, and basically like you got like X amount of money and you picked your roster, and pretty much like whoever was like top dog at the end, I think the grand prize was like tickets to WrestleMania or something like that. So I can't help but kind of wonder, like based off what we saw of the video package for the XFL relaunch, okay, so are you guys going to be associating yourselves with DraftKings, things of that nature? Are we going to be able to place legit bets on these teams and make some money on the side? Again, questions that just was like, well, one really good question had to do with if Vince McMahon feels that he'll be able to continue his duties with the WWE. And he said that the XFL will not impact his duties whatsoever with regards to the WWE. He is looking to juggle both. So I believe him when he says that. Other than that, one important note, he is doing this under the new company Alpha Entertainment, mainly because the $100 million investment is too rich for the WWE. Those are his exact words. President Trump reference question was asked. Vince was asked if President Trump would support the league, and Vince said he doesn't know. The league will have nothing to do with politics or social issues. Other than that, that pretty much was it in a nutshell. So let's go to our community polling right now. We had asked you guys here on YouTube, and if you haven't cast your vote yet, you could actually head on over to the community tabs page and you can vote that way. But the question I'm asking you all is, what do you think? Do you think the XFL will be successful this go round? And let's load this up for you guys, see what we got so far. I also have put in a vote on Twitter, so you guys could have your pick. But I mean, if you're already here on YouTube, you might as well come over that way. All right, so right now we have a tie at 32%. 32% of you, hey, XFL doesn't matter to me. I will not be watching it. Other 32% of you, no chance in hell. I don't see the XFL succeeding this go round. And just barely taking the lead at 35%. 35% of you have faith that the XFL will be successful this go round. Let's take to Twitter now, and we have two different type of votes. I had put one vote, same vote, but I basically had put the first vote on my Twitter timeline so that my Twitter followers could vote. And then I had put the same polling options for Alpha Entertainment's Twitter page. Now, with regards to the voting on Alpha's Twitter page, right now we have 0% of folks that did not choose not watching it whatsoever. 29%, no chance in hell that the XFL will succeed. 71% of you have faith. Meanwhile, on my actual Twitter page, to you, the followers, you all are saying as follows. 16% of you don't care about the XFL. You won't be watching it. And we have a tie at 42%. No chance in hell, 42%. And the other 42%, you have faith in the XFL. So kind of gives you a little bit of insight as far as what's going on right now. And before we wrap up this stream, let's see what you guys are saying with regards to the XFL here. I agree with Carolina fan. I wish that there was some announcements of cities. I would imagine, look, and that's one thing that Vince did stress a couple of times. They got until 2020. So they want to make sure that they get this right. 2 years may sound like a long time, but that's the blink of an eye. So I really hope that the logistics, everything, I hope that they're able to just nail it all down, quite honestly. And I see the question or statement being brought up by Kevin, who says Vince should worry more about the current state of the WWE storylines. The network isn't worth $9.99. And yeah, but Kevin, in all due respect, we're talking about the XFL. I mean, you're well within your right to feel that way, but like, we got to deal with the XFL for what it's worth. I mean, something like what you're saying, I would have to address that on the next edition of the RCWR show. I mean, it's a good point, but kind of wrong time, wrong place right now, sadly. But I feel where you're coming from, man. Let's see what else we got here. Some expect it to be on the network. I'm not expecting the XFL to be on the network, sadly. All right, so keep the comments coming in. I'm going to go on ahead and wrap this up. I think we did pretty good in covering the news. Hey, do me a huge favor, especially if you're new. Make sure you give me a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed already, do subscribe. The question is being asked, what's going on with me and giving predictions for the Royal Rumble and for NXT TakeOver. The plan was to actually do it later tonight, but since I literally just came on here to cover the breaking news about the XFL, I'm actually going to go on ahead and I'll fire things up on Facebook tomorrow evening, offering predictions on what's going to be coming about for Royal Rumble and NXT TakeOver. So again, Facebook, hopefully you guys got Facebook. If not, I mean, you don't need to sign up, but at the least you'll definitely be able to check out the Facebook stream because it'll be available on demand afterwards. So for those of you that want to check that out, again, it's going to be Friday evening. I'll be live. I don't know as far as like what time frame I'm going to be doing it. I would say somewhere between maybe 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll probably be on Facebook Live talking about the Royal Rumble predictions and all that. Those of you that want to check it out, facebook.com/the RCWR show. Give me a follow and like over there as well. And that is going to do it. I will be with you guys as far as the takeover and the Royal Rumble coverage goes. The way it's going to be coming about, there will be a NXT takeover after show live here exclusively on YouTube as soon as the event ends. And then we'll have the simulcast of the RCWR show this Sunday after the Royal Rumble wraps up. I'll be live here on YouTube, and I'll be streaming the live radio edition of the RCWR show for our Spreaker.com audience as well. So get at me, subscribe, Facebook, Twitter, the RCWR show. Make sure you subscribe on here so you never miss out on all the great content I do for you guys on a regular basis. For those of you that maybe are just now tuning in and you're waiting patiently to see the beginning of this, just wait about 5 minutes and you should be able to check this out on demand from the beginning. Wishing all y'all be safe. I will catch you this weekend for all the great wrestling coverage we're about to get. Everybody, take care.